freaking first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your mega preview pod for this week's Honda Classic. It's storylines, it's best bets, it's our one and done picks. And joining me to break it all down, Kyle Porter is here. KP, what's up?
You never introduced me first. I was caught off guard there.
That is very, it's a great observation. We'll get back to that in a second. Mark Immelman is here. Mark, good to see you.
Hey, boys. What's going on with you lot?
We're hanging in, and the coach is here. And coach, I'm actually a bit surprised you're here because of something that happened last week. And Jacob, run the tape. Cash money here, Mark.
It's a big purse. You got to go for it. But why don't you save him for somewhere that's guaranteed money, like another World Golf Championships event or the Tour Championship? The guy kills it over there, and he's going to be there.
But the problem with guaranteed money is everybody's guaranteed money at those events, right? Yeah. So it's like I feel
some of us are burning selections all of the time, so you're going to get to the end of the season with nothing in your holster.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'd rather than get there with 5 studs left for sure that I haven't spent. So
he was my other choice. What I'm going to hate is if JT wins this week, I will knock him on the show next week. Because that was like it came down to those two, and I'll be irate if he comes in for Rick and he doesn't come in for me. Oh,
I'll be very happy. I'll be very happy if he comes in and wins this.
I know you will. Let me be very, very clear that. Can I talk, Kyle? Now, I was not going to come on the show today until I got a call about 45 minutes ago from I'm sure Mark would call the Ivory Tower. And they said, when you're on the schedule, coach, you got to do the show. If you don't want to do the show, maybe your check doesn't show up. So there is one reason and one reason only I'm on the show today, and that is to get paid. But I will take it like a man. And whatever gloating you decide to do, I will take it. And I just took a cash ticket on your 18-1 you gave on my show Saturday, straight to the pay window. So I still got $2,000 out of it. Just see, that's how long I had to stay on the show. They said 2 minutes and you can get off. So what's up, boys? It's great to be back this week. Let's go.
Yeah, hey Rick, you're still it's still the victory march that you're taking. Is this another lap around the track?
Yeah, I've got until at least Thursday morning to keep making my victory laps around here.
I have to. Sorry, Kyle. I have to admit that shame on me and Coach, obviously, but it occurred to me again. I keep on forgetting this is a money thing, all right? Because you know me, I'm old school, and I go for FedEx Cup points. And it occurs to me now, after looking at the whole thing, the Players' Championship the entire season. So good on you, bro. That was a good call.
Oh, you know what that $2.7 million would have done for me? You know how Mark talks trash to me every week when I do? I would have been right there. I would have been right there. Oh my goodness.
I want to know how FedEx Cup points are more old school than money. For
the last few years, shall I say.
We're FedEx. We're like the FedEx Cup points being traded among the Egyptians in the ancient Near East, or what?
I'm still looking at Varden stroke average rate.
Oh man! Man!
Awesome. Well, that was the first time I got to see Coach. It was the first time I got to see Mark since last week, so we couldn't miss an opportunity. And producer Jacob clipped that for me, so we could start the week off with that. And if you like more competition, we've got more. We've got bracket games. We want you to compete with us in a bracket challenge game. I'll be there. Mark will be there. Coach will be there. Kyle, Greg, Sia, everybody will be there, and we want you as well. Join us at cbssports.com/FC brackets, and the winner gets a $100 gift card to Paramount Plus. And who enters just one pool? You can create an entire group to compete against your friends and fill out your bracket for the chance to win a Nissan Rogue and a trip to the 2022 Final Four. You can play on the CBS Sports app or at cbssports.com/FC brackets. All right, gentlemen, let's recalibrate for this week's Honda Classic PGA National, the final leg of our Florida swing. And maybe the most noteworthy news that came out earlier this week, KP, is we've actually had a couple of COVID tests, positive tests, excuse me. And we have been discussing how great the PGA Tour has been since coming back in the summer. But we had, Gary Woodland withdrawal, Scott Piercy withdrawal, Doc Redman withdrew, which three, I know 3 is a very small number, but these are numbers we haven't seen in a couple of months, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a small number, but it's a lot compared to, what we have had. We would see the one-off, every 2 events or whatever. So it feels like 3 in a week is a lot. I think that, there was a lot of people at the Players Championship last week. You noticed it on TV. I think part of it is you noticed it because everybody's at 17, right? And it just at times it felt a little. It was like, whoa, and some of this because we're not used to seeing it, right? We're not used to seeing people on TV, so seeing anybody is kind of jarring. But it did feel like there were a lot of people out there, and I'm interested to see how kind of this last leg of golf battling, for lack of a better term, COVID, how that goes. Because we it's not like, because the vaccine is being rolled out that it's over, right? Like you still have to get to the finish line if there even is a finish line. So I don't know. You don't want to see it affect events. You certainly don't want to see people get it. And I'm intrigued to see if it kind of pops up like it did at the Travelers Championship, remember last summer, because that was kind of the main incident, so to speak, that the PGA Tour has had to kind of battle. So I hope it doesn't go that way. I don't think that it will, but I do think it's in play. And I think this week was kind of a reminder of that.
Was the Travelers when Jay Monahan got on a plane and showed up in person and we were all like, oh boy, I'm scared of this now. Okay. That was right. I think it is an interesting point, Coach, that Kyle brings up here, which is now starting to see fans again. It's almost jarring again, right? It was really weird when we didn't have any fans on the course, and I've personally almost gotten a little bit used to it. Now we're seeing more and more people out there. It's almost weird to see. Obviously, it adds a layer of ambiance and momentum and all that, but it is still striking to see on television.
I find myself falling on probably the side of the fence that less people are falling on. I live in California, where right now you don't see a person without a mask on, period, end of story. And so I fly to Florida last night, and even the store I walked into, people were in there without masks on. And that was a little bit jarring to me because it's been a full year. But I also, as many know, I do golf, but I also do MMA a lot. And they just announced that the first full arena show is going to happen here in Jacksonville, near here in Jacksonville, with 15,000 people 1 month from right now, April 24th. And that was a little jarring to people yesterday. But at some point, we've got to realize that there's a lot more people involved here than just golfers, than just people that work for the PGA Tour. There's a lot of people that make a living off of all of these sports. And at some point, we have to get back to allowing everybody to earning a living. And that means the person parking cars, selling groceries, selling refreshments at the events. So this is going to happen. I think we're going to go through a series of time where now with the 20% allowed back, like this week at the Honda, you're going to start seeing some tests because people are just going to be connected. But it's just part of getting back to our real lives, and it's going to happen. And I'm okay with that. I apologize. I'm okay with that.
And Siri's chiming in as well.
Oh my God! Apparently so. Apparently so.
I do want to kind of mine into that because Mark, Coach lays out a pretty interesting scenario that we're in, where we have state by state, we're in very different situations, and I'm thinking about the logistics of an organization like the PGA Tour that not only have to deal with their own athletes and everybody else associated, but kind of treat things differently across state lines, and how that changes from a week to week basis. Remember, these guys travel all over the place, and they're going to be traveling, and it's just an added layer of logistics that are added to these PGA Tour events.
Yeah, but they proved last summer and through the fall that they can do this without the players being affected that much. Because look, we went how many events there through the summertime, and we didn't have very many COVID positive tests. And maybe I'm an outlier, but I was on site last week, and my first day on the course was Wednesday. I did a little recce, and it was obviously a little quieter. And then Thursday, I had the featured group in the afternoon, and I was surprised. There were less people than I thought were going to be there. And it's because golf is such an open game. Now, Carl brings up a good point about the amphitheater there around 16 and 17. But I'll tell you what, from all of my experiences, and I think I've done like 6 or 7 players championships on the ground there, it looked like 20% full because they jammed them in around that area there, left of 16, left of 17. And a lot of those holes, and I thought the same thing when I watched Bay Hill on television. Bay Hill sort of forces the fans to one side of the hole because there's always a water hazard or something on the other side. On television, it looks like there are more people than what they are. And there, if you watch 17 and 16, players are down the left and players are down the left and behind there. So it was empty to me, having previous experience. But again, all the fans were jammed into one area. So it might have looked more than what it was on television. As for the rest of the golf course, man, there were holes like 6 and 7, 8 the par 3, holes like perhaps certainly 12 on the back 9. 14, there weren't many folks until the final day, where there was hardly a soul out there. And even with the featured group, I had like DJ and Bryson and Colin Morikawa on day 1. There were folks out there, but it wasn't crazy. And like I said, my experience of the whole thing was like, man, I was expecting more because I'd built my impression and what I expected from watching Bay Hill on television. The whole thing, and when you start to get, and you'll see more of the same thing, because all the Florida golf courses, and this is where fans have begun to come back, a hole in Florida is turned by a water hazard or a bunker because they don't have trees growing down really, unless it's palmetto bushes and the like. So again, at PGA National, you're going to see fans on one side of the hole because there's a water on the other side of the hole like that. And there are very few holes where you'll get fans down 2 sides. So again, on television, it'll look like it's more. But take it from me, I was out there. I was surprised. There weren't as many as what I thought it would be, I guess is the point I'm trying to make.
Speaking of PGA National, that's the host of this week's Honda Classic. And KP, unfortunately, I think they kind of got the short end of the straw here on the scheduling department. You know, this used to be the first end of the Florida swing. Now it's the final leg. We've had a WGC, a Players. We've had the Arnold Palmer. We've had Riviera, and we've got another WGC next week. This is your natural resting spot. We're seeing a lot of the top players taking the week off. Daniel Berger kind of made known he's nursing this rib injury, so this field might get weaker, which is unfortunate because this is a really tough test that I'd like to see a lot of the big name players try to tackle. We got you on mute. I don't know if that's our fault or
this is my first time to do a podcast. I was looking at Data Golf's historical numbers on PGA National, and think about the names you see on there: Tiger, Rory, Ricky, JT. Well, Ricky's playing this week, but all these guys that were top 5 players in the world, and now we don't see any of them. And I understand, the cadence is great event, great event, off, great event, good event, great event, off, and that's just what it is right now. But it does stink because it's fun to see those guys taking on. Think about the 5-wood that Rory hit on 15 and what was it, 2012 or 2013, whenever it was that he went to a playoff there. There's been some really cool moments there, and yeah, you get a field that is just. I mean, it's like 4 of the top 25, all 7. I was looking at this. All 7 of the highest ranked players in this field are from different countries, which you never see. I thought that was super interesting. But yeah, it's an opportunity for somebody to get into match play, to get into the Masters, to get into some of these events. But the event as a whole is just, I don't know. It's kind of a bummer. It's not what you want to see the week after the Players.
You mentioned this being one of the final opportunities to get into the Masters. You mentioned Ricky Fowler in the field, and Coach, I mean, I'm counting down the opportunities that he has left to drive down Magnolia Lane in April, and he's running out of opportunities. Ricky Fowler has had a great record here at the Honda Classic. Obviously, the game is in pretty terrible shape. He hasn't had a top 10 since the American Express last year. That was 25 starts ago. I mean, Ricky Fowler's running out of opportunities to make his 11th consecutive Masters appearance.
And it's not going to happen. I mean, when you just watch him play, and he's been in a couple of featured groups in the last month, And his game's not just off. He's just not very good right now. And when you're talking about what is his ranking right now, 70-something, and it's tough to 81. So it's tough to watch because every time we talk about Ricky Fowler, don't we start with the same thing? Such a good dude. He's so popular off the course. That's how we start every sentence. And then we go, but his game's just not very good. It's hard for us to watch one of our favorite players because we always did it with Jordan Spieth for the last 3.5 years, waiting for this moment to get back with him. I don't know with Ricky Fowler if we're going to see him get back. He never got to the point that Jordan Spieth was at. He never got to the point that Justin Thomas is at. He was a good player who had some high finishes, who had the 1 year where he finished top 5 in all the majors, and that was the height of his career. And sometimes we have to say, you know what? Maybe he's just not as good as we thought he was going to be. Not when is he going to win a major, not he's guaranteed to win a major. He's the best player without a major. Maybe he's never going to win a major. Not everybody does. It's not a foregone conclusion. And I think right now, as he continues to play, and I hate to say it, but I'm making a lot of money off of him right now. I may be losing off other guys, but I'm fading him every week, and I don't even look at that score. That's how confident I'm going to win, and I hate that. But that's where his game is right now.
I think I've said this before. I think Colin Morikawa is who we thought Ricky would be, right? Like that's
a great point. That's
the kid from California who's a great amateur, great ball striker, and then he goes out and wins a major early on. Ricky's 31 now. You know, he's not 41, but 31 is not. He's not JT's age. You know, and I'm curious, Rick. Do you like if you had to bet on it right now? You know, my 10-year bets. Do you think that Ricky ever gets into the top 10 in the world again?
No. I mean, he hasn't been in the top 10 since, 2018, he finished the year at 11th. So it's been years, not just this last like 25 starts or whatever. But this is not necessarily a knock against Ricky because the top 10 is absolutely stacked, right? I mean, he's got like, it's just jam packed, but no,
it's a joke,
I'd probably move that number to like top 20, top 25. I mean, if he won this week, I don't know what he would move to, but I would probably take the over and say, no, he doesn't get back into the top 20.
It's crazy. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be interesting because we've seen sort of two paths here, right? Like we've seen somebody was the other day was comparing him to Hunter Mahan, right? He's fourth in the world. Then he just sort of like okay, what happened to Hunter Mahan in his mid to late 30s, right? Like he's playing, but he's not what he was in his late 20s. Is that the path? Or is it this, I don't know. Spieth is a bad example because Spieth's a lot younger and a lot better. But is it this, okay, I was looking at Ryan Palmer today. So Ryan Palmer, I was looking at some of his Masters stuff. He's top 25 in the world in 2015, falls all the way down to 250 in the world. And now he's back up to number 24 in the world. So I do think that there's a path there, and I'm just, the talent is there. I'm curious to see how it goes over the next 5 years.
As I look at it, first off, Ryan Palmer, his wife was battling cancer for a little while during that fall off. So you can sort of blame some off-course things maybe for the lack of focus, the lack of playing and that sort of deal too there. But with Ricky and the Hunter Mahan comparison, that makes a lot of sense to me. Because both guys were sort of chasing golf swing adjustments. And as soon as you get into that sort of a vein, and then you start struggling for form, and then you're trying to compete with the world's best, those top 20 folks you list, because that's where you expect it to belong, and the fans expect you to be there, and you expect yourself to be there. That is a really tough place to be. And then you start missing a few cuts, then you start trying to press the issue, and then the thing that no one says is Ricky used to be the guy that would show up at events and play in feature groups with the fans around and do media and all this sort of stuff. He doesn't do media pre-tournament anymore. He doesn't play in feature groups very much anymore. And so this is
he's in every featured group still.
Really?
Oh yeah. Everyone.
Can't shake him.
Well, forgive me for that, but it's just, it's a tough place mentally to be as well. And to add to this, with the deadline of the Masters qualification looming, this is just not a good golf course for a guy who's battling with form. This place will expose you. You talk about the players last week and the stadium course. This is, to me, one of the top 3 difficult golf courses on the rotation on the tour. And every hole, it just asks you questions through the bag. And you got crosswinds and you're just uncomfortable. Now, I know he's played here well before. He played well here before. But if you're coming in here with form that's leaking and confidence that's waning, you're really going to struggle. And I'm probably going to look like the Jordan Spieth call from Bay Hill a few weeks ago, because these guys can do anything and they can capture lightning in a bottle week in, week out. I say that ad nauseum, but this is just a different golf course.
I think the one thing we need to really tell ourselves, because now with the exposing of all the players and how much coverage there is in the PGA Tour lives, that sometimes we just have to be able to admit when a guy isn't where he is ever going to be. I had Mark Wilson, who won this event in 2007, on my podcast earlier today, and he talked about what Mark just talked about. He said the cross wins, you could have 4 different wins during a 18 holes of golf. He said it is so incredibly difficult to figure out what you want to pull out of the bag because the wind changes at this golf course so much. Well, if you're changing your swing, and you don't know which way you're going to go, and you're not hitting a fade, and you don't know if you're going to hit a draw, and you don't know what you're doing, then you could pull. It wouldn't surprise me if Ricky pulls out a 78, 79 Thursday, Friday. That's how bad he is playing right now. And also, I want to throw in this. We forget that every year, 25 new players come from the Korn Ferry Tour. Well, now we're talking about the 3 or 4 last years. That's basically 100 new players that are all really, really, really good. And now I think they're better younger than when Ricky came out 10 or 12 years ago. So all of these players, I can list off 20 guys right now that are better than Ricky Fowler that have come out since 2018. Easily 20, maybe 30. And that's a problem when these guys are better than you.
You speak about those crosswinds, and just to dig into that a little bit more, golf is about controlling the spin on your golf ball and the speed of your ball too, but spin more than anything else. And on the front side, just off the top of my head, there are 4 holes in a row that travel parallel to each other. So you go one direction and the opposite and one direction and the opposite. So if you've got an easterly wind, it's coming off your left and your right, then your left and your right. Wow. And if you're unsure of where this thing's going and how it's spinning, if you're in a left to right wind and you got one peeling right, it exacerbates the problem. Then if you turn back into another hole, like I'm thinking of holes, the 5th hole, that mean par, no, it's 6, that mean par 4, the water down the left. You turn back into that easterly, and it's from the right, and you carve one up against this breeze, it'll stand that golf ball up so quickly, it'll go absolutely nowhere. So it really is a tough place to be. And for someone who's sort of battling with some of the ball striking, and then add, acid to the injury here, he's not making many putts on top of the thing, so he can't scramble out good rounds right now. So right now, for me, I feel for a guy who is expected to be in the Masters by everyone, expected to contend in the Masters by everyone, and he has the same expectations for himself. So it's a hard place to be mentally.
One, people have no idea that he's not in the Masters. We're going to get to Masters week, and the general golf fan is going to be like, why did they keep Ricky out of the Masters?
we're gonna see like a Mercedes-Benz commercial, and that's the only time you're gonna see him that week.
Yeah, we might get like 8 Justin Rose commercials that week as well. 2, I hope to someday know as much about anything as Mark knows about crosswinds. It's unbelievable. I don't know about. I don't. Huh?
You play golf, surely?
Yeah, but I'm not breaking down crosswinds across like 5 holes at PGA National. That's unbelievable.
It's kind of my job. Aren't I brought onto this show as the analyst?
Yes,
that's what I'm saying.
I'm certainly not the strokes gained expert. We figured that one out by now.
If you ever see me breaking down crosswinds on this show, just hit the mute button. Please.
Me too.
The mute button.
I would not know what I'm doing for sure.
I should wear my golf nerd hat for the show, right?
It's all right. It's a cool nerd.
Appears windy outside. That might cause some troubles.
That's what I would say.
Yeah. Gentlemen, we got to get into our picks, our one and done, all that good stuff. But before we hit a break, Hunter Mahan's official world golf ranking. Anybody want to take a crack at it?
421.
He would
That's a
love
great
that.
guess. I would say, well,
Not
okay.
he's not in the thousands, is he?
He
No,
is?
Is he
No.
really?
Wow.
1,691. They only go to like 2,100 or something like that, right?
He's just ahead of.
Wow.
I was looking at Jose Maria Olazábal's OWGR ranking today. He's just ahead of him.
You're deep in it. You are deep in it, my friend.
It's Tuesday. You gotta figure it out.
You guys want to know where Hunter Mahan is at? 2019 Pebble Beach. We're rolling up to do a PJ Tour Live, rolled up into the parking lot, and John Rollins was there to caddy for Hunter Mahan. So we're just talking to both of them, and then the next morning I look, and John Rollins is +2. And I was like, I could have sworn he was here to you remember this, Mark?
I do.
I was like, I'm not sure Hunter Mahan was the player and John Rollins was the caddy. It just so happened somebody dropped out of the tournament, so Rollins got in. So Hunter Mahan had to find another caddy literally the morning of the Pebble Beach AT&T.
That's rough.
It was rough. That's rough.
Okay, we'll end on a positive for Hunter Mahan. How many PGA Tour victories does Hunter Mahan have?
No, he's got
4.
double digits, doesn't he?
Kyle
6.
Porter, 6. Okay, KP, how many can you name?
Canada.
Well,
Canada.
He won the match play, right?
That's the one I was
that's
positive
the
about. He
GC.
won the match play.
Yeah.
Yep, 2012.
He won Deutsche Bank or BM. He won one of the playoff events.
Yeah, now it was called the Barclays. That's 2.
What-
Yeah.
Okay.
He gave up Canada for a baby.
Byron Nelson.
Right, with like a lead, right? Like a
He had the lead
36 or
in Canada.
54 hole lead or
Yeah.
something.
Brant Snedeker
Yeah.
won that one.
Did he win Byron Nelson?
No, but you might be. I'll give you credit for Shell Houston because it's like close enough.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's all. I got nothing else.
Go ahead,
Go
Mark.
ahead. No, please go ahead.
2007 Travelers, 2010 Phoenix Open, 2010 WGC Bridgestone were the other 3 that we missed.
Oh,
Man.
those are good wins.
Those are good wins.
Well, that's the thing. If I might put a capper on this real fast, is that Hunter Mahan might not have been the can't miss kid, but he was freaking good.
Yeah.
And when we played, people would turn their heads. And it just shows how fickle this game is and how fickle form is.
Yes.
Once you get on the slide, man, it is grisly to have to deal with. And then you start questioning yourself, you question your technique, you question your caddy, your whole thing. And then his wife, I know, wasn't well at all at one stage too. And then you add personal issues in there. It is just downright difficult.
I think that highlights how impressive it is that somebody like Phil stays in the top 50 for 20 years, or Rory stays in the top 20 or 15 or whatever it is for like 11 years. I mean, that's a joke. Like that's unbelievable. Like I almost feel like the Mahan stuff is more not the norm. Like it's not the norm to drop out of the top 1,000, but that up and down is more the norm. And what Rory does, what DJ does, what Phil does is just it makes it even more absurd.
Yeah, I only got to chat with you guys once, and then Saturday night I think it was with Rick last week. And one of my takeaways from that players was Justin Thomas was just incredible. I mean, the way he played was off the charts, because that place wasn't as easy as what I think people were making it seem, because all the early wave players got really benign conditions that were softer so you could get at it. In the afternoon, the golf course just turned hard. And that 64 he shot was really, really good. But Rory, we had him in feature groups coverage. I have never seen that individual play golf like that ever. And his dad was out there, and I'm sure his dad would have to think back to when Rory was a 11-year-old kid probably to go and shoot the scores that he did around there. He didn't look like he knew at all where the golf ball was going. And then normally you try and scramble through that stuff and maybe keep yourself alive and keep yourself in the event, and you ride your luck and you hope for a bounce or two. But then you get to the greens, and he was missing reads. He was missing putt speeds. I mean, there was one putt he hit like 8 feet beyond the hole, and I was like, what on earth is going on? But this is golf. And that guy's a generational talent. And it was a dose of realism for me, as it always is on the tour. And for everyone watching this, instead of going, what the heck's up with Rory? You should go, man, I feel for this Rory guy, even though he's got hundreds of millions in his account. He cannot go and practice in the dark. He's one of those guys like Jordan Spieth. He can't hide away. Unlike Tiger, can't just ride into the sunset. Tiger's going to have to guard like a supernova. These sorts of guys, you get exposed so fast, and I sort of feel for him, even though he's got a Hall of Fame career under his belt already.
I'll bring this full circle, KP. Here, listen to this. You're going to love this. Hunter Mahan's match play victory, he beat Rory McIlroy in the finals in 2012, and Rory became the #1 player in the world the next week. He went out and played Honda next week, won it, became the #1 player in the world. That's what Hunter Mahan beat in the finals.
Wow.
That was at Dove Mountain, I think. I think Kuchar won it the year after that. But yeah, I was going to say I remember another 43 that Rory shot on the back nine at a big tournament before, but that was kind of mean spirited.
All right, gentlemen, what's that, Mark?
Where was that?
Augusta National, 2011.
Oh, okay.
He hit one left
on 10, and it was all downhill from there.
It was all downhill from there.
All right, gentlemen, let's do our super contest. Let's do our bets and one and done. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners. And we're back. Do you need help filling out your bracket? I know I certainly do. CBS Sports HQ has got you covered with nonstop coverage of every game from every region of the NCAA tournament. Leave it to the experts this year. We know you might be rusty after taking last year off. Stream CBS Sports HQ all week long. Coach, we're going to bring up your betting card first, but before I walk you through it, just you're going to be down there. You're going to have a lot of eyeballs on this event. We kind of talked through the field. We talked through the conditions. What's your confidence level with your betting card this week?
Well, it has more of a Mark Immelman feel to it this week. Not super confident. However, when my handicapping matches up with the numbers that are good, I actually became more confident when I looked at, because I always write down a list of names that I really like, and then I take them over to how am I going to put them into picks for the week, whether head to head or whatever. So as you can see here, and thanks to William Hill for having no head to heads this week, but I actually don't think I would have done any head to heads anyway because of how these names fell. I love all these names here.
So we'll go through a couple at a time here. I'm going to work my way up from the bottom. You have a couple of group winners. You have Brandon Wu to win Group D. I like that. You have Matt Wallace to win Group C. And then you have a couple of nationality bets. Well, let's get into these because one of them is your best bet. Top South Korean, that's Benny On.
Yeah.
Your top Australian, Cam Davis. Your top Englishman, Matt Wallace. And your top Great Britain and Irish player is Shane Lowry. Talk me through those guys.
Ben On is a guy that Mark Wilson told me on my podcast to really keep an eye on despite his 11 on 17 last week at the Players. So I like him this week because I'm fading Sungjae Im. Sungjae, the defending champion, is getting so much love from DraftKings, from everybody putting him in. He plays Florida so good. I think he's going to stub his toe this week. So that's going to have Ben On step in. I almost made him my top Asian too because I have South Korea and Asian, but I didn't want to double down on that. Brandon Wu finished 8th in Puerto Rico. So he's really trending up. Cameron Davis finished 8th at this event last year. So I think that's a really good pick for a top Australian. And I just had to go a little bit outside the box with Matt Wallace. I think it's going to be a good week for him and a week for him to step up when a lot of the big names are not going to play.
Well, when you get some of these windy conditions, these Euro guys, they love that stuff. And you went with not only Shane Lowry as your top Great Britain or Irish player, you also took advantage of the boost and you got him at 30-1 to win this thing outright.
Well, I did the boost for Mark because he always loves those boosts. I like to, respect him a lot. But also, if you walked up to just an average golf fan and you said, name me one player that nobody's thinking about that finished top 10 last week at the Players, it would be this guy. He finished 8th. Does anybody know that he finished 8th last week? I would dare say nobody knows that. And I think he's going to take this game right into PGA National and play very, very well this week.
All right. And the other thing about Brandon Wu, which producer Jacob will go to my card, friend of the pod, we'll go to my card next because I also have him and I have him as my best bet in a 3-ball over Dylan Fratelli and Matt Wallace, as much as I like Matt Wallace this week. But listen, we talked about it earlier. The line between the Korn Ferry Tour and the PGA Tour is as blurred as ever. Those guys did not come up from the Korn Ferry Tour last year. We saw what Zalatoris did when he got an opportunity. Not saying Brandon Wu is Zalatoris, but I like this spot for him. I'm much more bullish than you, Coach, on Sung J M. I took him over Lee Westwood and Russell Henley in a 3-ball. And then I went with Taylor Gooch, who I think is playing better than maybe his box score might indicate in a 3-ball over Brendan Steele and Cam Davis. Now, Coach, let me get your thoughts on this one, because I went with Keegan Bradley to win, a little sprinkle there and a little sprinkle on Daniel Berger. And I don't feel great about either of them. Picking outrights this week was like, I was staring at the board, shaking my head.
And you shouldn't feel good about it, because Daniel Berger just started an MRI, even though he played good Sunday. He had an MRI on some ribs, so that would caution me. And Keegan Bradley can only play 3 rounds out of 4 this year. He can't finish.
True.
And so that's why I wouldn't like that one. But I actually love your Sun JM pick, because Lee Westwood's going to miss the cut, and Russell Henley is just falling off a cliff for some reason. So I think Sun J could have a top 25 pick. I just don't think he's going to be bet on. That's all. And when you make a lot of these bets, you can't think, is your player going to win? You just have to think, can he beat the guys I'm betting him against? That's all.
They don't call Ben on Bermuda Benny for nothing. He is still a very bad putter on Bermuda.
I've literally never heard that.
I was going to say, I've never heard that.
Come on. They call him that all the time on PGA Tour Live, on the Telegram. It's all over the place. He's still very bad putting on Bermuda, but he's much better than the rest of his surfaces. Mr. Mark.
Yes, sir.
Let's pull up your betting card here, and as usual, it has plenty of our nationality bets, and you have a Taylor Gooch sighting. So I'm actually happy to see us on the same side of this. You have Taylor Gooch to win Group B. What do you like about his game in particular?
He's a hitter, man. That guy hits the golf ball solidly. You don't stumble your way out of 4 years of golf in Stillwater, Oklahoma, because as Kyle can tell you, the wind pumps around that joint. And because of that, I like him in South Florida this week. And he played nicely last week. He proved he can play hard golf courses. And he's the kind of guy that sort of doesn't really give a rip. He gets up, he hits the thing, he goes and hits it again, finds it. It's a real uncluttered approach to the game. So I can't recall who was in this group. I will admit that I'm low on confidence as it pertains to this betting right now, because I've sucked the last few weeks. And also that I filled out this betting card while you guys were chatting before we went live. So this is a lot of, there wasn't much thought that went into this, but his name, to Coach's observation, jumped out to me. I'm probably a week late on the Lee Westwood call, and I'm a complete dimwit for not using him last week around that golf course. Jocko Neiman, a lot of these guys, if you look at them, these are guys that hit irons well, that hit the ball lowish. Neiman hits the thing head high, basically. Dylan Fratelli's the same deal. He was solid for a little while last week. And Kevin Streelman's a good golfer, good striker who plays well in Florida, is one in Innisbrook. So, I mean, I just look for guys who can play in the wind. There wasn't much thought here. I wish I sort of knew what I was doing, but this was just random guessing. And what's pee me off is that because I didn't really think about this very much, it's probably going to do better than the I've been offering up the last 3-4 weeks, whatever it was.
That's how it goes. Do you think, Mark, Fratelli is good enough to win a major?
That's a really difficult question, because he is. I mean, he was highly decorated as an amateur, but winning a major is so many things have got to go your way. Does he have the chops? Sure. He's a surprisingly good striker. He's picked up some power off the tee. I mean, when I talked with him, when was it, earlier this year, he had gained like 20 yards off the tee. Wow. And he's reliable. He's a really good ball striker. But to win a major, things have to go your way. They really do. But you don't be surprised if you don't catch him like it's Kiowa Island this year. I think on that sort of golf course, he could thrive because he's long enough. And like I say, he hits a pretty piercing ball flight.
How do you gain 20 yards so quickly? Do you just put on 2 pairs of Faldo shoes, or how does that work exactly?
He's gone bananas in the gym. Really, he hasn't beefed up like Bryson has, but he picked up a lot of mass and was doing a lot of explosive sort of work, lots of deadlifts and that sort of thing. And he's a strong dude. I'll tell you that. Doesn't look it on TV, but he's He's strongly built.
Based on Instagram, the guy's always in the gym, so I believe that. So to round out Mark's card, just to get a summary here. So Lee Westwood was top European, Dylan Fratelli as top South African, Kevin Streelman over Keegan Bradley and Doug Gim in a 3-ball, and his best bet, Joaquin Neiman, as the top rest of the world player at 6-1. KP, you are up next, my friend, and you are showing plenty of restraint over the past couple of weeks. And, this is interesting. I think we've got a little trifecta on Brandon Wu here. You've got Brandon Wu over Dylan Fratelli, and it says Wu, but that's not right. That's a typo somewhere, unless he's playing against himself as well. And then
that'd be an interesting bet. That would be an interesting bet to beat yourself. How do you beat yourself?
In golf, it happens a lot. I think.
It's a push.
So we'll figure out who that other 3-ball is. But you have Wu and Chris Kirk as your 3-ball winners here.
Yeah, Brandon Wu's finished. I think he's finished in the top 10 in 3 or 4 of his last 5 events on Korn Ferry and PGA Tour. And you guys brought it. I like guys who there's a little bit of unknown in terms of the ceiling there. I mean, he might end up being, a couple years from now, we might look back and say, wow, Brandon Wu is a top 20 player in the world. I don't know. And I kind of like guys like that, especially when they have longer odds in a 3-ball like that. So I didn't realize that Chris Kirk shot 79 on Sunday until I wrote down that one, but he's been, it's not just like hey, I'm looking at the first 3 rounds of the Players Championship. He's been pretty good all year. If you look at guys in this field and kind of look at what they've done in 2021, he's among the top 4 or 5 guys in terms of ball striking. It's him, it's Berger, it's Neiman. So he's up there. So I do like him, even though I like him because Scott is probably a bigger name, and I think he's getting a pretty good number there. And then the Sungjae bet is kind of fading. I mean, Westwood said it on Sunday. He kind of said, I ran out of gas. Mm-hmm. That does not bode well for PGA National. And maybe he plays great. I hope he does. It's been a blast to watch, but I don't know. I'm more worried about Henley there than I am Westwood with Sungjae. And then the last 3.
That's your best bet. Sorry, your last 3.
Yep. And then the last 3, those are just guys that I like to play well this week. You mentioned Taylor Gooch. I mentioned Chris Kirk. Brendan Steele, top 5 here last year and top 10 in this field this year in ball striking.
Along those Westwood lines, Kyle, I'm thinking about this more, and I had said I was probably a week late with him. He went and played Augusta National with his son Monday. And we all know what a hilly walk that is.
Yes.
For a guy who was talking about his legs feeling heavy and he was tired after 2 weeks in contention, I'm wondering if he's got those thermal leggings and stuff on him to try and recover. The good news is that the PGA National is very flat.
But I don't know why he's like he should be getting ready for Augusta. Like he plays well here. Like he's had success here. He's got a couple top 10s, I think. And he's in the match play. He's going to be playing a ton of golf leading into the Masters, and he plays great at Augusta. Everything for him right now should be pointed toward, okay, how can I prepare myself to try and win a major with how well he's striking the ball.
Yeah, but to that, the one thing I've always believed, you strike while the iron's hot, and it's like surfing. You ride until the wave dumps you, and it's going to. So you stay up and you enjoy the wave. The one thing he did that in his post-round comments that he said that just resonated with me, he's like, he just talked about his legs, and then he described how when the stuff was misfiring and he didn't feel it so well, then he was unsure of the direction of the ball. So I was reading between the lines there, hearing a guy going, I know exactly how my golf swing's working. I'm completely on board with all of the fundamentals. Stuff is working for me right now. So it's an easy fix. So right now it sounds like he's in this lane that he's got. And so he's trying to ride that thing as much and as efficiently as he can.
Can't blame him for that. Those final 3 that Kyle mentioned, Gooch, Kirk, Steele, all top 20 bets to round out his card. The Sungjae M3 ball is his best bet. One and done, gentlemen. Let's work our way up from the bottom. Coach, you have Colin Morikawa getting a $53,000 last week. Of course, that is not the prize you wanted. The consolation prize is you are now over $2 million, and you get another crack at it this week. Oh, look at this. A graphic for producer Jacob. That's a
Hey, you could have taken.
beautiful graphic.
Hey, listen, you could have taken Jimmy Johnson, JT's caddy, and gotten more than you got with Morikawa.
Wow. We should do that.
Wow. If
That's
anybody can appreciate a zinger, it would be me. Except for today, KP. Except for today. Mike, this one's gonna sting for a while. I'm not even gonna try to act like it doesn't, because I'd be at 4.7 million right now. I'd be right on Mark's behind. So that's okay. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of other tournaments this year with 2.7 million as first place. So
USGL people suspension their first. The announcement next week.
But here's the thing. This is why this is so like the Morikawa pick. Even like it's still a great pick. Like the outcome does not determine whether or not it was a good pick, right? Like and I get, and the clip is funny and whatever, but I think we just it's so easy to turn betting and one and dones into an outcome based like decision, and that's the decision is good if the statistics point to it going into it, right?
Yeah, and they did. So thank you for that, KP. This week I'm going to go with a guy. I've decided that if I'm going to pick a winner for us, why wouldn't I pick him in my one and done if I'm able to take him? Because if I feel strong enough about him to pick a winner for the show, why wouldn't I pick him in a one and done? So under those thought processes, I'm going to go with Shane Lowry as my one and done this week, and I think he's going to have a really strong week. I do.
Shane Lowry for Coach with his one and done. Producer Jacob's at 2.6 million. We'll get his pick on the spreadsheet here. Oh, he's on a pretty good run. Hatton, Fitzpatrick got a couple 100,000. KP, you're up next. You're at 3.3 million, and you had Patrick Cantlay last week. We talked about that. That's a tough pill to swallow, but you're on a decent stretch here. Over your last, 7 starts, you've gotten 1.1 million. You're in a pretty good run despite that Cantlay debacle.
The Cantlay hurt. I was so confident about him, and it did not go well. I think I'm probably going to go Sung Jae here. It's a field where there's only 4 top 25 guys. I don't know that I love him anywhere else the rest of the year. So I think this is probably going to be the spot that I use him.
And you do have him available, which is always a good sign. You can use
which always needs to be
rare.
checked.
That's rare. Yes,
I know.
Greg is at 4.8 million. He had Scotty Scheffler last week, Francesco Molinari the week before, so that's 2 zeros in a row. He needs to find a rebound, or he'll be moving down the board here shortly. Mr. Mark, 5.3 million. You had Tommy Fleetwood at the Players. That resulted, like many of your peers, in a 0. Who do you think you like this week for the Honda Classic?
Who I like is vibing. I like straight vibing. I do. Who I'm considering giving the insider info you guys have got is Jacko Neiman. So I'm vacillating right now. I'll wait for a little info, and I'll be, as Rosie would say, Tim Rosaford, who they actually named the media center after.
I saw that.
Awesome.
As Rosie would say, I'm going to hit the phones and find out what's going on. We'll get a little more insider info.
I thought you picked Neiman at the Sony.
You did. I'll make it real easy for you. You can't use Joaquin Neiman.
Well, then we're in trouble. I'm going to have to look at the list. I'd earmarked Daniel for this thing from when I started, and I'm hopeful that the MRI is good and he's okay. I mean, the guy played well last week with a bad rib, so maybe 2 weeks in a row.
Yes, you got $587,000 from Joaquin Neiman at the Sony Open, so you did great there. Now we'll go to me. 6.4 million.
It is so annoying how smirky you are today. I can't even get to do this. It.
Yeah, Rick's never Rick is never like this, and so it's even funnier when he is.
Oh my God! I'm just pulling my hair out. If I had any hair to pull out, I would pull it out.
Hey, Coach, By the look,
Yes.
like things off the big win last week, he got a new clothing sponsor too. There's a Puma on the chest.
Oh
on
yeah,
him.
well he called Ricky. Apparently Ricky no longer is with Puma, and so they needed to bring a new guy in. They
The
needed
real
to bring
Rick.
a new guy.
The real Rick is
The
stood up.
real Rick.
I'm just here presenting the facts. The facts are I got
Oh my
$2.7
God.
million from Justin Thomas last week. And as much as I would love to have run out Daniel Berger this week, I would have loved to have run out Sungjae Im this week. I've used both of them. So I'm going with Joaquin Neiman because I saw that Jacob can't use Neiman. Mark can't use Neiman. I think Greg has used him as well. He has. So I'm going to take this opportunity to grab a guy who is one of the biggest or the shortest favorites in the field and see if I can run up a little bit of a gap here. That's the route I'm going to go.
I'm telling you right now that if you win 2 weeks in a row, I will not be on the show next week.
Coach, this is what happened. You know, you get these guys that are uncomfortable with the lead, and then they play their way into the lead, and all of a sudden they look back, and then they start playing a little defense.
Yep.
Yes.
I think there's a little defense on the go.
Yeah,
Mark, he can't handle us. He can't handle us chasing him. He can't handle somebody chasing him.
I've made the turn and I found a leaderboard for the first time, and now I'm shaking in my boots.
And he's referencing it all of the time too. He's like, I agree.
I pulled out my phone, took a picture of the leaderboard, so I had it just in case things go sour from here. Quick reminder that our expert picks will be tweeted out. That's our sleepers, our top tens, our pick to win. Our betting cards will be tweeted out. We'll probably tweet out. I think Jacob's been tweeting out the one and done stuff as well. Gentlemen, Honda Classic, final leg of the Florida Swing. Anything else before we get out of here?
Yes, I do have one more thing. And I saw, I think it was Mark put it in one of our group texts that we should be playing the WGC Top 64 match play next week. And I really think that we should. We should talk about it here on the show. But also one of the four of us is hosting the selection show for the Dell match play on Monday. So that would be me. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. That would be me.
Hey, one of us is on the show for live.
Oh, wow.
So we're both going to be working it. How about that? How about they bring in the heavy hitters?
No, are you on the call for the event for live?
No. I'm just doing the selection show. So I'm going to do beginning of the week. You're going to do the end of the week. How about that?
Cool.
But if we really want to see how much we know about the players right now, then we all should throw a little bit in the kitty, and the show should. I'm in it. I'm in. Who else is with me?
All in.
Yes.
That is the match play is the best.
Mark's in.
What am I in on?
Whatever we come up with.
Am I talking to myself? I mean,
Well,
like a bracket challenge.
Okay. Bracket challenge.
I didn't know if there was
match play.
I didn't know if there was wine involved. I don't know what I'm getting myself into.
Probably.
Cold hard cash. Cold hard cash.
One of us has a Nerf gun battle to get to, so if we could, yeah.
All right, here's what we'll do. We'll wrap this up. That selection show is 10 a.m. Central Time, so that's got to be 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday. We'll get the draws, we'll get the pods, we'll get all that good stuff, and we'll be back to cover it all. But for now, thank you to producer Jacob. Thank you to the coach. You can find on Twitter at the Coach Rules. Mark Immelman, who you can find at Mark_Immelman. KP, the Nerf King, at Kyle Porter CBS, and you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been the first cut. We'll catch you next time.